Okay, listen up, nerds. The concept of this video is incredibly simple, but there are some rules that need to be understood in order for it to make sense. So before you start running off to the comments and complaining that no one other than Sukuna can beat Gojo, please just listen to this. This video is discussing who can beat Gojo, not who would beat Gojo. It's a collection of every sorcerer with a technique capable of countering infinity and potentially killing Satoru Gojo. For every character that I list, I am going to A. Explain why their curse technique can harm Gojo, B. Look at how well the current character would do against Gojo, and finally C. Looking at how well a full potential version of that character will do against Satoru Gojo. That way you get a nice balance between harsh facts and fun hypotheticals. But this is the JJK fandom that I'm talking to, so I'm sure people will find a way to completely ignore everything I've just said and then call me a clown in the comments. Well, either that or they'll start lecturing me about how Kashimo no-diffs Gojo, but spoiler alert, he's not on the list. Oh, I should also probably mention that there is no particular order to this list. I've just thrown in every character that I think could do it. Also, if this video can get 1,000 likes, then I will, I'll do a thing. Anyway, let's get started. Now, the first sorcerer I believe has the means to defeat Satoru Gojo is Higuruma Hiromi, or Hiromi Higuruma, whatever. Cursed energy and violence as a whole is banned inside of Higuruma's domain, meaning that Gojo will have to just sit there and let it run its course. It also means that Gojo can't counter it with Infinite Void if Higuruma expands his domain first. Now, I'm gonna keep this very simple for you utter dumbasses. If Gojo doesn't get a death sentence, then Higuruma will always get cooked. When his curse technique is confiscated, Gojo's hand-to-hand strength and skill with just pure energy enhancement is enough to overpower Higuruma and many other characters. Also, no, losing his curse technique should not disrupt any control over his cursed energy, because it didn't stop Sukuna using basic enhancement and Gojo has the 6 eyes. If Gojo gets the death penalty, maybe from his 0.2 second domain expansion which hurt many civilians, then Higuruma does have a means of killing Satoru Gojo. Gojo won't have Infinity active or any other application of Limitless, and one touch of Higuruma's blade will put him in the ground faster than you can reach the comment section. However, the Higuruma in our timeline would still get slammed because his main weakness is lack of combat experience. He is simply getting left-right goodnighted by our glorious blue-eyed deity. Simple as that. Full potential Higuruma, after years of experience, however, may be one of the most unbelievably broken sorcerers in the entire verse, at least in a one-on-one confrontation. He is already said to be a Gojo-level genius who learns unbelievably fast. Once he reaches a point where he can throw hands with a techniqueless Gojo, then I genuinely think that fight leans in favor of Higuruma. It's just a shame that he got the farmer treatment before he could actually advance any further. Still though, the ability to effortlessly confiscate Limitless and Infinity is impressive enough, so he definitely deserves to go on the list. Okay, next up we have Yuki Balls of Steel Tsukumo. And yes, I am totally aware of how unbelievably delusional this will sound at first, but guess what? I don't give a fuck. Okay, just hear me out, alright? Can she bypass Infinity in any way other than domain expansion? No. Can she beat Gojo in a domain expansion? No. Does Yuki have any chance in a straight-up fight against Satoru Gojo? No. Anyway, next up. No, I mean, obviously he slams Yuki in a fair fight, but that doesn't change the fact that Yuki is actually physically capable of doing it. Realistically, a black hole fueled by infinitely increasing mass, without Tengen's barriers or her own will to stop it, is a literal solar system ender. At least I've been told by sciencey people that her black hole is big enough to take out the solar system. Will it bypass Gojo's infinity? Probably not. Will it leave Gojo abandoned in space with no hope? Yes. She would never do it, and this would never be a real scenario, but in theory, she could actually kill Gojo. And for this reason, I don't think it's an overstatement to say that she is probably the most dangerous woman to ever walk the earth. Okay, next up we have one that I'm sure many of you have been anticipating. It is none other than Fumhiko Takaba, the man with the objectively most broken curse technique in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Takaba's comedian technique can quite literally make anything he finds funny become reality. In theory, he could make a joke about Gojo regressing into a baby, and if he genuinely thought it was funny, then it would happen. And from this alone, you should be able to understand why Takaba is physically capable of deleting Satoru Gojo, literally. Now, many people have the misconception that not killing and not being aware of your technique are both conditions for comedian to work. But simply put, this is dumb. Takaba can easily kill, he just chooses not to because he's Takaba. Angel also thinks that he should remain unaware of how it works, because if he knew it, then it would add a lot of mental pressure, which may affect how funny he finds himself. And let's be real, if he did choose to kill, he would undoubtedly wipe the entire verse, so that's already proof proof enough that he can definitely beat Gojo. But even as he is, Takaba can still win. As long as he's finding himself funny, then he'll tank pretty much any normal jujutsu attack without a scratch on him. In his fight with Genjaku, he got even stronger and applied soul resonance to his curse technique, meaning that his opponent got trapped inside a damaging reality warping simulation. And I firmly believe that Genjaku is the only character other than maybe Higuruma who can outright beat Takaba. I really do believe that both Gojo and Sukuna would get absolutely cooked if Takaba was trying to beat them. Okay, next up is Yuta Okkotsu, but don't worry, I'm gonna keep this one very brief, at least for now I am. To be clear, Yuta does have the means to bypass infinity, but I think he gets slammed by Gojo regardless. In 10 years, when Yuta has Gojo's age and experience, I do think he will be as strong, if not stronger, but as of now, he has no chance, Jacob's Ladder or otherwise. However, due to the very nature of his technique, he can in theory be the strongest. For example, he could in theory figure out how to use a world-cutting slash via Shrine. He could also theoretically gain any curse technique, meaning that if Yuta copied Comedian and then spent years having a newfound passion for comedy, then yes, he could do it. But is that ever gonna happen? No. I'd say Hikari fighting Sukuna is more likely at this point, and that's saying something. Okay, next up is everybody's favorite Nobara Kugisaki, and yes, I have completely lost my mind, but that is a totally separate issue. It's got nothing to do with this. Does Nobara have enough attack potency or cursed energy to fatally wound Gojo? Fuck no. Will she ever reach that level? No, I don't think so. Still though, she does have one of those rare abilities that I believe can ignore infinity and hurt Satoru Gojo. Not only can Straw Doll Resonance target the soul, but due to its voodoo doll nature, she doesn't even need to touch Gojo. She just needs a part of him or something that belongs to him, for example some hair or a blindfold, and then I believe a Straw Doll Resonance will damage Gojo because it attacks him from the inside out. Like I said though, she doesn't have the attack potency to do it alone. But what if she had help? Ever since Nobara called him out in the Goodwill event, I have always wanted to see these two characters interact. I think Nobara Kugisaki and Yuta Okkotsu would make a dangerous duo. I mean, just imagine a soul-damaging resonance from both Yuta and Nobara at the same time with Yuta's level of cursed energy. That shit would be so unbelievably terrifying, and yes, I think it could seriously damage Gojo's soul. But to be completely realistic, Gojo almost definitely wins every single time, but whatever. Alright, if I sound different in this section, it's because I actually completely forgot Yuji Itadori was a character until I started editing, so I had to go back and record it. Anyway, Yuji is obviously one of the people who has potential to beat Satoru Gojo. I mean, the reasons are pretty obvious, right? Like, he's got the Shrine technique and the same potential as Sukuna, and Sukuna beat Gojo. If he's able to learn how to do a world-cutting slash by using Sukuna as a model, then he may actually be able to beat Gojo's infinity. Not to mention the fact that the full potential of the blood manipulation technique is probably on a similar level to Six Eyes Limitless. And I say that because we know it was one of the techniques of the big three vengeful spirits. Okay, I say we know, it's kind of like fanbooky light novel stuff, but still, the idea is his full potential should be able to keep up with the likes of Satoru Gojo. He's also the main character, and it's in the narrative for him to be on Gojo's level, so I really don't think I have to spend too long on this. And next up, we have got the original potential man of Megumi Fushiguro. This one is also very simple. Maharaga is simply one of the best ways to bypass infinity and do damage to Gojo. However, just because Maharaga technically can, doesn't mean that he actually can. Make sense? Gojo is not that fodder Six Eyes user who lost to Maharaga in the past. Sukuna literally devised an entire plan to keep Maharaga hidden because he knew that Gojo would just one-tap him. But even when Maharaga fully adapted and could hurt Gojo, he was still totally embarrassed by our Go, while he was also fighting Agito and the literal king of curses. Unless Megumi gains Sukuna's domain skill and durability, he will never be able to get Maharaga to adapt to Gojo's kit. Megumi's full potential is ridiculously high, and Maharaga is technically capable of hurting Gojo, but I don't see any scenario where Megumi wins. Okay, wait, I'm realizing this video is about people who can beat Gojo, and I just said Megumi can't. Well, I mean, technically he can, like he can physically. Do you know what? F it, I don't care. Anyway, the next one is Sukuna. We already know how this goes, he's a fraud, it's boring, moving on. Now the last one on our list is a very fun one that we actually don't know much about. It is none other than the Six Eyes wielding vengeful spirit Sugawara Michizane. For context, all of my information on Michizane comes from one of the stories in the JJK light novel Thorny Road to Dawn. These light novels are considered canon by Gege, so I'm not waffling. In one story, Gojo, Shoko and Ijichi go out for drinks and a little friends catch up. And somewhere in the conversation, Gojo is asked who the strongest Six Eyes limitless sorcerer is in the history of, well, sorcery. He obviously claims that he is the strongest to ever use them, but then openly admits that Sugawara Michizane might actually be a genuine challenge. He not only confirms that Michizane was a Six Eyes limitless user, but also that he might have been able to beat Gojo. I'm not even gonna pretend to know how a Gojo versus Gojo fight would would even work, or if Michizane's abilities are even the same as Gojo's at all, but I do know that there is the potential for a Gojo defeat there. That does, however, wrap up our final contender, because I can't think of any more, but please let me know if you can. Before ending the video though, I very briefly want to address some misconceptions that people have about who can bypass Gojo's infinity. First off, Uro's Sky Control might be able to distort the infinite space around Gojo's body, but it still won't allow for direct contact, which includes Thin Icebreaker. Secondly, Curse Technique Kashimo cannot do it. No farmers allowed in this discussion, very simple. Also, the reason I haven't included Angel on the list is because yes, she can bypass infinity, but beyond that, what really is she gonna do? Like, also, there's a kind of split in the community at the moment about what Angel's technique actually does and whether it will fully kill a sorcerer when it eradicates the technique. I don't think it does, but I can see people's reasoning, and I really didn't want to get into that because it was just gonna start drama. My final point is that no matter what was said and by who, Geto cannot beat Gojo even if he got Rika. But I can't lie, that conversation is gonna require a whole separate video. Now, don't forget that this video was just a mix of facts and hypotheticals, but at the end of the day, it was for the purpose of entertainment. In 80 to 90% of these cases stated, Gojo would just completely wipe the floor whether they can bypass infinity or not, because with the exception of Takaba, Gojo is the strongest sorcerer in history.
What did he say?
As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, feel free to join the Discord and follow me on Twitter, links below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in a bit.